Block 1. African Christian Syncretism. Imagine a secret code, not written in ink, but woven into the very fabric of faith itself. A code designed to preserve a universe of belief, a pantheon of powerful gods, right under the noses of those who sought to destroy it. This isn't the plot of a thriller novel, it's the real, breathtaking history of how African spirituality survived the unimaginable horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. What if I told you that for centuries, millions of people have been praying to Catholic saints while secretly, defiantly honoring the ancient deities of their African homeland? This is the story of religious syncretism, a term that sounds academic but describes one of the most brilliant and profound acts of cultural resistance in human history. It's the story of gods in disguise, hiding in plain sight. To understand this spiritual masterpiece, we have to go back to a place of profound trauma. From the 16th to the 19th centuries, millions of Africans were captured, torn from their families, and shipped across the Atlantic in the brutal Middle Passage. Their bodies were enslaved, but the colonial powers and slave owners knew that to truly control a people, you must first break their spirit. And the heart of that spirit was their religion. The spiritual systems of West and Central Africa, the Yoruba faith of the Orishas, the Fawn worship of the Loa, the Congo reverence for the Nkisi, were not just religions. They were the complete operating systems for their societies. They were their history, their morality, their medicine, their connection to their ancestors, and their understanding of the cosmos. To the enslavers, these vibrant, complex belief systems were dismissed as paganism, as devil worship, something to be violently eradicated. The primary tool for this spiritual eradication was forced conversion to Christianity, most often the Roman Catholic faith in the Spanish, Portuguese, and French colonies of the Americas. Enslaved Africans were subjected to mass baptisms, given new Christian names, and forbidden, under penalty of torture or death, from practicing their native faiths. Their drums, the very heartbeat of their rituals, were confiscated and burned. Their sacred objects were destroyed. Their spiritual leaders were silenced. The goal was total cultural annihilation, to create a compliant workforce disconnected from its roots, its power, and its identity. But you cannot simply erase a universe of belief from the human soul. You cannot command a person to forget their gods. Instead of disappearing, that spiritual energy did something extraordinary. It went undercover. The genius of this survival strategy lies in the structure of Catholicism itself. Unlike some forms of Protestantism that focused on a more direct, unadorned relationship with God, Catholicism was filled with intermediaries. It had a vast and colorful pantheon of saints, holy men and women who had lived exemplary lives and could be prayed to for intercession in specific areas of life. There was a saint for sailors, a saint for soldiers, a saint for mothers, a saint for protection against fire and lightning. There were feast days, processions, candles, incense, holy water, and a rich tradition of iconography, statues and paintings that made the divine visible and tangible. For the enslaved Africans, who came from traditions where deities also had specific domains and were honored with specific rituals and symbols, this Catholic framework was a near-perfect camouflage. It was a system they could map their own beliefs onto, a holy mask for their forbidden gods. This was not a passive blending. It was an active, conscious, and incredibly clever act of cultural preservation. An enslaved Yoruba man, for example, could look at a statue of Saint Barbara, a virgin martyr who is the patron saint against lightning, and see something else entirely. He could see his own powerful deity, Shango, the Orisha of thunder, fire, and justice. He could kneel before her statue, light a candle, and say a Catholic prayer out loud for the overseer to hear, but in his heart, he would be speaking to Shango, honoring his god and keeping his spirit alive. A prayer to a saint became a secret invocation to an Orisha. Holy water in a baptismal font became the sacred water of Yemaya, the great mother goddess of the ocean. The iron keys held by Saint Peter became the symbol of Ogun, the god of iron and war. This syncretism was more than just a clever trick, it was a lifeline. In a world designed to strip them of all agency, all humanity, it was a secret source of power and identity. It was a way to maintain a connection to the ancestors, to the homeland they would never see again. It provided a sense of community and shared secret knowledge among the enslaved, fostering solidarity and resilience. It allowed them to perform healing rituals, to seek justice, to celebrate life, and to mourn death according to their own spiritual logic, all under the protective guise of Christian piety. It was an act of profound intellectual and spiritual defiance, a declaration that even in chains, the soul could not be colonized. They took the religion of their oppressors and transformed it into a vessel for their own salvation, a shield for their most sacred truths. But how exactly did they do it? Which gods hid behind which saints? To understand this incredible act of spiritual camouflage, we need to look at the specific deities, the saints they wore as masks, and the rituals that kept their true spirits alive.
Deities, saints, rituals. The secret spiritual language created by enslaved Africans wasn't random. It was a work of theological genius, a meticulous process of finding echoes and reflections of their deities within the Catholic hagiography. They became masters of comparison, identifying saints whose stories, symbols, or domains of influence mirrored those of their own powerful gods. Let's pull back the curtain and look at some of the most compelling and widely recognized examples of this divine masquerade, which form the very foundation of faiths like Santería and Candomblé. Perhaps the most dramatic and famous pairing is that of Shango and Saint Barbara. In the Yoruba tradition of West Africa, Shango is no subtle spirit. He is the Orisha of thunder, lightning, fire, justice, and masculine power. He is a warrior king, a charismatic and sometimes wrathful deity whose symbols are the double-headed axe and the colors red and white. Now, consider Saint Barbara. According to her legend, she was a beautiful young woman locked in a tower by her pagan father to protect her from the world. She secretly converted to Christianity, and when her father discovered this, he became enraged and ultimately beheaded her himself. As a divine punishment for this horrific act, he was immediately struck down by a bolt of lightning. Because of this, Saint Barbara became the patron saint invoked for protection from thunderstorms, fire, and sudden death. For an enslaved Yoruba person, the connections were electrifyingly clear. The lightning that struck down her father was the unmistakable signature of Shango's justice. The tower she was imprisoned in could be seen as Shango's castle in the sky. And the colors most associated with her martyrdom? Red for the blood she shed and white for her purity, the very colors of Shango. A follower could therefore light a red and white candle at the feet of St. Barbara's statue, and while appearing to be a devout Catholic, they were truly making an offering to the mighty King of Thunder. They could pray to her for protection during a storm and know that it was Shango who was listening, his power cloaked in the image of a female saint, a disguise that made the pairing even more discreet and ingenious. Let's move from the fire of the sky to the depths of the ocean. Meet Yemaya, the great mother of all Orishas. She is the goddess of the sea, the source of all life, the protector of women and children. Her domain is the vast, life-giving ocean, and her nature is nurturing and maternal, but like the sea itself, she can also be fierce and destructive when angered. Her colors are blue and white, representing the waves and the sea foam. In the Americas, particularly in Cuba, Yemaya found her perfect reflection in a specific manifestation of the Virgin Mary, Our Lady of Regla, the Virgen de Regla. This statue of a Black Madonna is the patroness of the harbor of Havana, the protector of sailors. The link was immediate and profound. Both are powerful mother figures. Both are deeply connected to the sea and those who travel upon it. Worshippers could make a pilgrimage to the Church of Our Lady of Regla, which sits right by the water, and be openly honoring the Catholic Virgin. But for those who knew, the journey was for Yemaya. The offerings of watermelon and molasses, favorite foods of Yemaya, left at the church were for her. The act of wading into the ocean to pray was a direct communion with the Great Mother, her presence sanctioned and shielded by the venerated Catholic icon. The world of work, war, and technology also needed its divine patron. This is the domain of Ogun, the powerful and relentless Orisha of iron, tools, and warfare. Ogun is the spirit of the divine blacksmith, the pioneer who clears paths through the wilderness with his machete. He is a deity of labor, sacrifice, and unyielding strength. His colors are green and black, representing the forest and the iron he commands. Ogun's fierce warrior nature found a clear parallel in St. George, the legendary dragon-slaying soldier, often depicted with a sword or spear, a master of metal in combat. In this guise, Ogun could be honored as a warrior who fights injustice. But another, perhaps even more common syncretism for Ogun is with St. Peter. Why St. Peter? Because he is famously depicted holding the keys to the kingdom of heaven, keys made of iron. Those iron keys became the ultimate symbol for Ogun's dominion over all metals. A prayer to St. Peter could be a request for Ogun to unlock the path forward, to remove obstacles, or to grant strength in one's labor. This spiritual mapping extended far beyond just these few examples. The wise, fatherly Orisha Obatala, creator of human bodies, was syncretized with Our Lady of Mercy. The beautiful and sensual Oshun, goddess of rivers, love, and wealth, was hidden behind Our Lady of Charity, the patron saint of Cuba. But the syncretism wasn't just about static images. It permeated actions and rituals. A Catholic baptism, for instance, was seen as a powerful initiation using the sacred waters of Yemaya or Oshun. A church procession on a saint's feast day became a parade in honor of the corresponding Orisha, with devotees subtly wearing the deity's colors. The very offerings were a secret language. Leaving yellow flowers or honey for Our Lady of Charity was a gift for Oshun. Tying a red ribbon to the statue of St. Barbara was a mark of devotion to Shango. These incredible fusions of faith didn't die out with the end of slavery. They formed the bedrock of vibrant, living religions that continue to shape millions of lives today. So, what is the enduring legacy of these hidden gods, and what do they teach us about the very nature of belief?
Block 3. Enduring African Faith. The complex tapestry of belief, woven during centuries of oppression, did not simply vanish with the abolition of slavery. On the contrary, it flourished. The spiritual systems that were once a secret survival mechanism, a faith practiced in whispers and shadows, stepped out into the light. These syncretic traditions evolved into fully fledged, organized religions that are now practiced by millions of people across the Americas and around the globe. They are known by names you may have heard of, names that carry the rhythm and spirit of their origins. Santería, or La Regla de Ocha in Cuba, Candomblé in Brazil, Vodou in Haiti. These are not historical reenactments. They are living, breathing faiths that serve as profound sources of identity, community, and spiritual fulfillment for their followers. While they may still utilize the imagery of Catholic saints as a bridge to the divine, a practice born of necessity that has become a sacred tradition in its own right, it is crucial to understand that these are distinct African diasporic religions. They possess their own unique theology, a complex cosmology, a structured priesthood with years of training and initiation, and intricate rituals that have been passed down through generations. The drum rhythms that were once banned are now played openly, understood as sacred languages that call down the Orishas, the Loa, the Nixie, inviting them to manifest and commune with the faithful. The focus is not on the Catholic saint as an intermediary, but on the direct, personal relationship with the African deity they represent. To its practitioners, Santería is not a corrupted form of Catholicism. It is the continuation of the Yoruba religion of their ancestors, a faith that was resilient enough to adapt and survive its collision with the Western world. The cultural significance of these religions cannot be overstated. For the descendants of enslaved Africans, they are far more than just a way to worship. They are a powerful act of reclamation. They are a library of cultural memory, preserving elements of language, music, dance, and philosophy that were systematically targeted for erasure. In a candomblé ceremony in Brazil, one can hear chants in the Yoruba language, a direct linguistic link to a homeland centuries and thousands of miles away. In a Vodou ritual in Haiti, the intricate drum patterns are a direct inheritance from the Fon and Congo peoples. Participating in these faiths is a way of connecting with the ancestors, of honoring their incredible strength and ingenuity, and of asserting a cultural identity that is unapologetically African at its core. In a world that often devalued and demonized Black culture, these religions provided, and continue to provide, a sacred space where that culture is not only preserved but celebrated as divine. This journey has not been easy. Even after emancipation, these faiths faced intense persecution. They were often outlawed by governments and viciously slandered in popular culture, misrepresented as black magic, voodoo curses, or devil worship. Practitioners were arrested, their sacred objects confiscated, and their ceremonies driven back underground. Yet, the resilience that allowed these faiths to be born in the first place ensured their continued survival. Today, they are experiencing a global renaissance. They are practiced openly not just in Latin America and the Caribbean, but in major cities across the United States and Europe. And as they spread, they continue to evolve. Some communities are engaging in a process of re-Africanization, choosing to move away from the Catholic masks and embrace the traditional African forms of worship more overtly. Others hold fast to the syncretic traditions, viewing the fusion itself as a sacred and essential part of their unique history. This dynamic evolution is a testament to the fact that these are not static relics, but vibrant spiritual paths that are constantly adapting to the needs of their followers. Ultimately, the story of Africa's hidden gods in Christianity teaches us a profound lesson about the nature of faith and the indomitable power of the human spirit. It shows us that religion is not a rigid, unchanging monolith. It is a fluid, creative, and deeply personal force that can be shaped and adapted in response to history and circumstance. The syncretism of the African diaspora is perhaps the most dramatic example of this process, but it is a universal one. We see it in the way Roman gods absorbed the characteristics of Greek ones, or how Christmas celebrations incorporated the traditions of pagan winter solstice festivals. But what makes the African experience so unique and powerful is that it was not a fusion of equal exchange. It was a fusion forged in the fires of oppression, a testament to a people who refused to let their gods die. They hid them in plain sight, cloaked them in the robes of foreign saints, and in doing so, they saved themselves. These deities were never truly lost. They were simply waiting, masked, and patient for a time when their children could once again call their true names aloud.